Great, so from downward facing dog, we're just going to step that right foot between the hands. So you might want to drop your knees first and then just walk it forwards until the foot's between the hands, and we'll come to a low lunge. Back knee on the floor, chest lifting and shoulders rolling away from the ears, sinking those hips down and just settling into your breath. And as you exhale, just see if you can relax a little bit more through the front of this left hip to just stretch out that hip flexor even more. Letting go of tightness through that hip flexor. This is another very tight area for most of us. And then we'll put the twist in, so placing that left hand down, stretching up through the fingertips. Begin to really rotate through the heart. Now, it's easy to collapse into your left shoulder here. If you're not sure what I mean, I'll just demonstrate. It's easy to sort of drop down like this. And actually, I want you to be pushing away, because then you'll find there's a lot more space to twist. If you're collapsed in that left shoulder, very hard to find that rotation. So just keep pressing through the mat on the left hand, and also that engages the upper back. And then we'll bring the hands down and we'll step the foot back. We'll tuck the toes under and move back into downward facing dog. And once again, you can pedal out through the heels, bending one foot at a time, one knee at a time, and pressing the opposite heel into the floor. You can even take a couple of single-legged dogs and just stretch into the hips if that feels comfortable. Just wherever you feel tightness in this posture, loosening it through. And then we'll drop the knees again and we'll step the left foot forwards, coming back to low lunge. And once again, really focusing the attention awareness through the front of the right hip and just trying to let go of that tightness using your breath. And then we'll press down through the right palm and lift up through the left hand. And again, really making sure that you're pressing out through that shoulder to just give you more space to rotate. And then taking your attention back to your breathing, making sure that it's still assisting you here in each posture. Good, and then we'll release the hands and we'll step back to dog one more time. And this time we'll just find a little stillness in the down dog. So take a moment to spread your hands and push through your palms. See if you can contact all 10 knuckle pads into your mat. And then just feel the fingers really splayed. You really want your index finger pointing forwards, not your middle finger. So it's almost like the hands are just slightly turning outwards. This allows us to externally rotate the arm in the shoulder, and this indeed is what you want to be doing. So rather than your elbow sort of moving out to the side walls, you want to be drawing your inner elbow around and forwards as if you're squeezing your biceps towards your ears. Once you've got that rotation happening in the arms, you can then work on pulling your shoulder blades down towards your kidneys, creating space around your neck. You don't want the shoulders lifting up and crunching towards your ears. And then just really focus on pushing your heels down into the floor, just a micro movement, really pressing the heels away more. And just noticing and observing, spreading the toes, trying to get the feet pressing into the mat. Let's take one more breath in a really good downward dog, aware of our form here, of our posture. And then we're just going to walk the feet towards the hands. Coming to the front of the mat, we'll take a hanging forward bend here. So just grabbing a hold of your elbows or allowing your hands to fall towards the earth. Just feel the length right through the back of the body, right up through the hamstrings, through the backs of the knees, but also down your spine, out through the skull, all along through the arm lines. Allow gravity to just lengthen you out. And then just soften the knees and pull your belly button towards your spine as you slowly roll up, bone by bone. And we'll come all the way up to stand. Come slowly so that you don't feel lightheaded. Interlacing the hands, we'll press the hands away and lift and open the heart. And then we'll take the hands the other way and stretch into the upper back. Good. And then we'll just give everything a shake out. Grab a little drink of water if you need. Okay. So we're going to just go through a slow round of sun salutation to begin with. And then we'll take some standing poses. Okay, so just coming to the front of the mat, have the feet either together or just slightly apart if that feels a little bit more stable for you. Hands at the heart, rolling the shoulders down. Just really feel the shoulder blades pressing down towards your kidneys, getting that switching on of these upper back muscles, your lats. You want them engaged enough that you've got really the shoulders pulling down. And then just if you close your eyes, take your attention to the soles of your feet, breathe down towards the floor. You'll really feel the energy moving away from that busy thinking mind where it's spent most of the day. We want the energy down into the trunk of the body now. And also that's where we want our attention, our consciousness. And then we'll inhale, opening the eyes, we'll stretch the fingertips up. We'll take a nice side bend, first of all. We're going to keep both arms alongside the ears for this first round. It makes it a bit more challenging. You're supporting the weight of the arms. And I want you to really press down through the left heel and really reach across and over with the left fingertips so that you've got a lengthening through the waist on the left side. Take one more breath here. And then pulling the belly button in to support you as you come up, press down through the right heel as you stretch the right fingertips all the way over. And really feel the length through the right hand waist. Good, keep breathing. And then inhale, coming back up. We'll gently dive the hands down to the floor. And we'll step the right leg back and come back to our lunge position, dropping the knees. This time bringing either hands to knee or fingertips up over the head. Just choosing whichever option feels most appropriate for your body. It's fine to wibble wobble. That's a good sign. It shows you're really challenging yourself a little. So let's pull the shoulders away from the ears. We're going to add a little pulse in here. So inhale, hips lift slightly, and this can be done with the hands on the knee. As you exhale, you sink the hips a little deeper. Inhale, pick up the hips. Exhale, sink even further. So each pulse takes us deeper into the pose. We'll take one more. And then just see if you can challenge those hips to stretch even a fraction more than the last round. Find your breath. And then we'll release the hands to the floor. And you can either step back to modified plank, keeping the knees down and the toes up, or to full plank, tucking the toes under and lifting your knees. Just make sure that your hips aren't pushing up. You all look good, actually, but you don't want your hips pushing towards dog. You want them level with the shoulders and heels. You want the kneecaps lifting. And then just really suck your belly button in, slight tuck of the pelvis. And again, engage those lats to pull the shoulder blades away from the ears. Good. Everyone drop the knees. If you want to do knees, chest, chin, which I'll just demonstrate, that's quite tough on the triceps. You keep your hips in the air and you drop your chin. That's an option if you want to work your arm muscles. Otherwise, you bend out to the side and you just gently come down onto your belly. Good. Either way, you will build up your tricep strength, and eventually you might want to try knees, chest, chin. Before we go up into Cobra, just really check that your fingertips are back. You don't want them forward of your shoulder head. They've got to lie directly. If I had a ruler touching your shoulder head, it would brush your fingertips. And then the other thing we don't want is elbows out like chicken wings. So really squeeze them into your sides, tops of the feet on the floor. And we're going to inhale into a baby cobra. There's no weight in the hands. You could lift them and you wouldn't move. You really feel the back muscles lifting you up now. Now, keeping the hands off the floor, let's go up another inch. Great, and release. Hello, back muscles. Let's push back into child's pose. And just stretching the arms out in front, you should feel those back muscles we've been working lengthen as you reach the arms forwards. So child pose really counters the work that we're doing in our sun salutation. And also when we're in child's pose, we just want to soften the breath and allow the body a moment to reset. From there, we'll move to down dog again. So really tiptoe the fingertips out in front of you. Keep them anchored as you tuck your toes under, and then push the hips up to downward facing dog. I'm going to put a pulse in here as well, now reminding you that the pulse is to get you deeper into the posture. So each pulse you take takes you a fraction further. So as we inhale, we'll come up high onto the toes. As you exhale, you push the heels down closer to the mat. Inhale, rise up onto the toes. This exhale takes you even further. Push the heels away. One more time, inhale up. Exhale, really press the heels away. And then just think about your hands that we set up in the last round. Index finger forwards, biceps rotating towards your ears, shoulder blades pulling down your back, engaging your upper backs and back muscles and lats, and really spreading through the palm, pressing down through the knuckles. Take one more breath in your strong dog. And then we'll just drop the knees to the floor and we'll step the right leg back between the hands. And this time, actually, because we're on the other side, we'll just go ahead and repeat what we did on the first side. So just taking the hands to the knee, or if you did so on the other side, arms up and overhead. Take a moment to anchor those shoulders down again and just focus a moment on the breath. Good, and then we'll add the pulse. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, taking you just a fraction deeper. Two more. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, sinking hips down. One more time. Get nice and deep into that lunge. Take a couple of breaths, really feeling the stretch through the front of the left hip. Great, and then we release. I'm going to step the back foot forward, feet slightly apart or hips width apart. This time making our forward bend less passive, more active. Grabbing a hold of the shins or ankles. Begin to pull your chest towards your thighs and your head towards your knees. And begin to deepen that stretch into the hamstrings. We'll also add a pulse here to lengthen the backs of the legs. Inhale, lift your chest and head and come to flat back. Exhale, just slide the hands back down and pull in deeper. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, go a little further, another inch into those hamstrings. One more time, inhale, flat back. Exhale into your deepest stretch. Settle there and take a breath. And then just release the hands, soften the knees, pull the belly in, and we'll roll up bone by bone, unraveling through the spine. As we come up to stand, shoulders back and down as we float the arms up and finish in Samasthiti. Okay, same thing on the other side, adding a twist in this time. Inhale, reaching the arms up, and exhale, diving down to the floor. We're going to step the left leg back and drop the knee. This time, as we did in the warm-up, we're going to place the right palm flat and lift up through the left hand. Now again, making sure we don't collapse, easily done into that left shoulder. You're pressing the left hand into the mat and lifting up and away from your left shoulder. And as you do that, it gives you space to turn the shoulders and lift the heart towards the ceiling, reaching up through the right fingertips. Now take your attention to your hips. Easy to lift the hips up as you're doing this. I want you to maintain that twist in the upper body, but now drop the hips down so that you're still getting that lovely stretch through the hip flexors. Let's take one more breath here, and we'll release the hands to the floor. Tucking the back toes, either stepping to plank with the knees up or modified plank with the knees down. Take a moment just to find that good core strength, squeezing shoulders away from ears, getting hips level with shoulders and heels. Pick up your kneecaps, don't allow the hips to sag. Tuck the pelvis slightly and pull the belly button in so that your abs are working. One more breath, don't hold the breath. Good. And then we'll drop the knees, and you can either dip the chin down to the floor, working the triceps, or take the elbows out and just allow the body to gracefully come down onto the belly. That's it. So come forwards more, hips down. Yeah, there you go. Great. Now check your fingertips are under your shoulder heads, elbows in, feet pointing. This time we'll put some weight into the hands. So you get the back muscles fired as we did in low cobra, but then you push through the arms a little bit and come up to a high cobra. Now don't be here. Really important. Soften the shoulders away. Don't have chicken wings. Elbows in at the side, heart lifting. And then we push back, child's pose. And once again, as you stretch those fingers forwards, you can really lengthen those back muscles that we've been working. And then soften the breath. Good. Moving to dog, you're going to tuck the toes under, push the hips up into downward facing dog. And we'll put that pulse in. Take a moment to spread the fingers, turn the hands, wrap the biceps. And then inhale, rise up onto the tippy toes. Exhale, squeeze the heels down more. Two more. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, pressing away. One more time. Good, solid yoga breath. And then hang out in down dog for one more breath, just finding stillness there. Good. And let's sink the knees to the floor and then step the left foot through. And again, make sure it's all the way between the hands so that you've got space to sink the hips down. If your stance is too narrow, you can't drop your hips. Your hips will stay high. So get that lifelong stance and then you'll really be able to get this drop. Then pressing the right palm into the floor. And lifting up and out of the right shoulder as you lengthen the left fingertips up. Really find that lovely twist through the heart. And as you twist the upper body, keep the hips sinking down towards the mat, getting that lower body opening as well. Now make sure the breath isn't being retained or shallowed. Breathing deep, full breaths. And release. Good. Stepping the back foot forwards once again. We'll take that active forward bend, grabbing a hold of shins or ankles and really working deep into your stretch. Focus on the breathing. And then release, soften the knees, suck the tummy in and roll slowly up through your spine. As you inhale, the arms lift up, but we're going to take that side stretch to finish. But this time I'll help you out by lowering one arm, lift and lengthen through the left fingertips, and then press through your left heel as you side bend. And now that you're not carrying the weight of the right arm, you can drop even further. See how side bendy you can be. And then breathe. I always make up words in yoga, it's fine. And then suck your belly in to bring you back up with a strong core and torso. Float the arm up, release the left arm. And then before you bend, lift up and lengthen, and then press the right heel into the floor to give you a foundation as you drop deep into the side bend. Keep breathing, challenge your waist. Use your tummy muscles to bring you back up, not your lower back. And then just release, bring the hands back to the heart, close the eyes for a moment, and just reset. Lovely. Shake everything out. Good work, everyone. Okay. So for those of you new, I always teach the same sequence 4 times, 4 weeks in a row. So this is week 1 of our new sequence. We will be adding more. We took a long time just to do one sun salutation this evening. Next week we will add to that. So we'll speed the sun sal up a bit, put in a few more standing poses, and we continue to do that through weeks 2, 3, and 4, and then we start a new sequence the next month. Okay, so this just gives us some repetition, and repetition can be good in the sense that you can see progression and you have familiarity. But I don't like doing too much of that. It's also nice to get variety. So after 4 weeks of similarity, familiarity, we then go into variety. So we're just going to work on a couple of standing poses this week. We'll add in some more next week. But for now, I just want you to pick up the right leg and just see if you can find your balance here. If you really struggle with your balance, it's something that can be learned, but you can just place your toe tips on the floor to give you a little bit of help there. Now, I want us to step back to lunge. Now, some of you will just want to get this over and done with quite quickly. Those of you who've got good balance, maybe you can really take your time, tipping forwards and trying to extend the leg out straight behind you, and then bending the front knee until you just lightly tap the back foot down. Very nice. And that's something we'll work on over the next 4 weeks. Now we're going to turn to goddess or horse pose. So you want to get your toes, all 10 toes turning out here. Now, how far you turn them out will depend on how good your balance is and how open your hips are. You do not want to feel like you're going to fall over. I'm going to turn around actually because I've got my back to the camera and also to you. Sorry, Carolyn. So you can turn your toes all the way out if you've got really steady balance and good hip opening, but probably you'll have them just a little bit more turning in. But whichever angle you're at there, I then want you to get the knees over the toes. So if your toes are really turned out, your knees need to be as well. And also if the toes are in, the knees need to be. But what you want to have is the knees pressing back over your little toes. So don't allow them to fall in. Start to press them open. And as you do that, you'll feel these muscles begin to lengthen, your inner groin muscles. And then you can start to get a bit deeper until you really feel some work going on here. And it should be quite uncomfortable, not painful, but get out your comfort zone here because you want some opening into these muscles. Now try not to stick your butt back. So tuck your pelvis under your shoulders so that you're long in your torso and upright as possible. Good. Now we're going to pulse this one deeper as well. So as you inhale, push through the heels, straighten the legs, give yourself a fraction of a break. And then you're going to come down, and I want another ½ inch at least on the first one. Good. And then we go up again. Big inhale. Exhale, pull the hands to the heart and get another ½ inch in. Lovely. One more time. And see if you can really get into your deepest, most challenging stance. And then just feel the work in the legs. And it should be uncomfortable now. Take 2 full deep breaths. I won't keep you here for long. One more. And say thank you very much as you straighten the legs. We're going to turn the toes in now, just enough that your outside edge of foot is parallel with the short end of your mat. So not turning too far in. And then bringing the hands to the waist or hips, you're going to just peel the shoulders back and down and lift slightly through the heart, almost a back bend, but not quite. And then engaging through your belly muscles, keeping that activation. You're just going to fold halfway so that you come to a flat back. And already you should feel the stretch through the backs of the legs. And if you push your tailbone towards the ceiling just 1 millimeter by tilting the pelvis, you'll feel the hamstrings lengthen, and then just release that, tuck the tailbone under slightly, and it gives it a little bit less work. So then just find neutrality through the pelvis and begin to slide the hands down the legs towards your shins or ankles, or maybe even you can tuck your fingers under the outside edges of your feet. And then just catch a hold of whatever you can reach and pull yourself deeper. You're trying to get your head down towards the floor. You're feeling that stretch through the legs, focusing back to your breath allowing the breath to just move through the body. And it's just a sort of unconscious pulse. Now, I'm not taking you into an actual pulse, but with each exhale, have that sensation of deepening. Good. And then we're going to take one more pose here. We're going to attempt Malasana. It's a little bit of a challenging posture. But you're going to bend your knees, take your hands down, and then just heel toe the feet a little closer together until you can come to a squat with the toes turning out and the heels in. Now, in an ideal world, you'll be able to sink the bum down and keep the heels down as well. But for some of you, that might not happen. But if you can get to a place where you can actually get the weight out of the hands and back into the feet, the full pose is to have, yeah, Carolyn, lovely, is to have the bum down and the hands at the heart. But just go where you can. Some of you may feel very tight in the Achilles here. And that's very common. Might be that's stopping you. It might be your hip flexibility. We're going to just be here 2 more breaths because it's such a good pose for mobility in the ankle, mobility in the hip and lower back. So it's just a great pose to be in. And then we'll release. Very nice. And just work your way out of it. We'll step back and we'll shake out. Was that really tough getting into Malasana? It's a funny pose, isn't it? Because it kind of looks simple if you can do it. But actually, once you're in it, you realize there's this, there's this, there's this. There's just so many things working in it. All I can say is once you can get into it, it's a really great pose for so many things. So keep working with it. For me, I had really short Achilles and I never knew till I came to Malasana. And over time, I've really worked on stretching out my Achilles. It's been a really good pose for that. We're just going to finish the standing sequence with one balancing pose because balancing is good. We'll just take a simple tree pose this month. So remembering that tree can look like this. You don't have to have only one foot on the floor if your bounce is a bit off, or you can just take the toes a little away from the floor, or you can work to the most advanced variation coming all the way to the inner groin, but please don't press on your knee. So wherever you go to, don't press on your knee joint. Your knee joint doesn't really like moving laterally. Bring the hands to the heart, fix your gaze on a point on the floor, and try and keep the eyes as still as you can. Then take your attention to your standing foot, grounding down through the left foot. Take your attention to your core, pulling in and engaged to help you stay strong. And finally, find your breath. If you feel really confident, lifting the arms up into extended tree. And then slowly, with lots of control coming out of it, well done, and then shaking out. And we'll swap sides. So again, take your attention first to your standing leg because that's your foundation, and then begin to move your balancing leg to, and it may not be the same position. This side may feel a little bit more easy. We often have better balance on one side than the other. So just take your leg where it feels appropriate, then fix your gaze. Pull up through your standing leg, suck up through the belly, shoulders down, and then attention on breath. And then with as much control as you can, deliberately releasing the pose. Well done. And then we'll shake out. Good. So we're going to move down to the floor now. And I will let you just drop down to the floor tonight. We'll work on taking a vinyasa down later in the month. So we'll just extend the legs out in front. Now, Dandasana looks like a simple pose, but really there's a lot going on. So your hands are going to be by your sides, fingertips facing forwards, elbows in, shoulders down. But then you're going to really be flexing your feet back towards you. Your kneecaps are engaged enough that your quadriceps are actually working strongly. As I said, shoulders rolling down, but then chin to chest, so back of the neck is long. And then really pull your belly button in towards your spine, making all that abdominal core engaged and switched on. And then just take a few conscious breaths in Dandasana. And then we'll find a really nice Paschimottanasana forward bend. So before you reach for your feet, I want you to try and lift the whole of your rib cage up and away from your pelvis. And then keeping that space between this bottom rib and this hip bone, I want you to start to fold forwards, really trying to find that extension through the belly area. And then you'll reach for either your ankles or maybe just your shins or possibly even your feet. And then use that grip to just pull you deeper into the pose. Keep the belly sucked in, that will help you move forwards. And then have a sensation of not only moving towards your knees, but also moving towards your feet. So you're lengthening forwards as well as downwards. And use your exhale to take you deeper, softer into the posture. Couple more breaths. And then we'll slowly come back up. And before we go into our hip opening pose for this evening, we're going to just work the belly muscles a little bit more. So I want you to bend your knees just enough to get the feet flat. So if you've bent too much, just push the feet away until they feel like they want to lift. And then you're going to take your hands to your knees and really get length again between that bottom rib and that hip. So you're lifting up and out of your pelvis. Suck your belly in towards your spine. Roll your shoulders down. And then keep that engagement as you rock back off your sitting bones towards your tailbone. Now, you can decide how far you want to go back. You'll feel the bite in your abs when you know you've gone far enough. And it may not be very far. It may be further. And then you're going to release your hands and hold it there, keeping that belly pulled in. We're going to add the obliques. These are your side twisting abdominals to this. So just bring your fists and then you're going to twist from side to side. You don't actually have to touch your elbow to the floor, but that's where you're working for. So that will give you the sensation of where you're going. And we're just going to twist from side to side, keeping that movement back as well as from side to side. So you're really working the whole of the abdominal core. Now keep going until your abs feel like they've really worked enough. So that may be 10 on each side, it may be 3 on each side. It's up to you. And when you've had enough, you just come back up to sitting and rest your head on your knees. Focus on your breath as you do this. And if you feel like you could go on forever, then you need to rock back further. Sink down towards the floor with the shoulders, and then you'll feel that you can't go on forever. Good, and from here we'll come to Baddha Konasana for our hip opener. We're going to start with a passive variation. So keeping those feet really quite far away from the pelvis so that you're making a nice diamond shape with the legs here. You're going to take your hands to your shins and again get that lift of rib cage out of pelvis. And then you're slowly going to walk the hands forwards, trying to keep that lift and length. See if you can get your fingertips on the mat. And then just see if you can start to crawl forwards until you're just dropping down between your hips and beginning to take the head down towards the floor. And you'll feel this hip opening as the legs turn out in the hip sockets. And then just become a little bit more passive, just letting gravity take you into the posture now, just letting go. focusing on your breath, allowing the breath to move through the posture. And then we'll just tiptoe the fingertips back. And we're going to move this into pigeon pose. So we'll start with the right leg. So you're going to take your left leg and swing it behind you. And then you're going to move your right foot just down a little bit. It still wants to be pointing to the wall, but it wants to be behind your knee. So your knee is further forward than your foot. Now, if you've got any knee problems, you may just want to start to bring the head forwards from here. But ideally, you're going to lift off your buttock and come over. That's it. So that the left knee is out, right knee is out to the side, foot is to that wall. And then tiptoe your left toe tips back until your left leg is directly out behind you and as straight as possible. If you can, come to your fingertips and lift the heart and see if you can now sink your hips down towards your heel. And then come forwards into sleeping pigeon. And again, the action is left hip bone trying to touch right heel. And just allow the body to breathe in the pose. And then we'll slowly walk back up. And we'll put our mermaid in as it's such a lovely quad stretch. So now you do want to sit on the butt cheek. Just drop the weight onto the right buttock, bend your back leg and catch your foot. And then slowly pull the foot towards you, stretching into the quadricep. We'll release. And we'll gently swing that leg back round, coming back to Baddha Konasana, but this time a stronger stretch. So soles of the feet together, but then can you bring your hips as close to your heels as possible, either moving the hips or just pulling the heels in, but you want to close that gap up, no more diamonds here. And then catching a hold of the toes, again, lift the ribs out of the hips and get that length. Once you feel that length, you can start to fold forwards. Now, I've got the setup that my elbows are sort of on my thighs, so I can push my elbows into my thighs to open my legs more. So if that's available to you, it's a really good way of deepening the stretch as you take your head, or chest, I should say, more. That gives you more length. Try and take your chest down towards your feet. If you get any pain in your knees, please back out of this pose. It means your hips aren't ready for it yet, and your knees are trying to compensate, which we don't want. So a few deep breaths here. And then slowly coming up, and we'll take pigeon on the other side. So transferring the weight into the left butt cheek as you start to circle the right leg behind. Make sure your left foot comes down a little bit so your knee is forward of your foot. And then see if you can lift off your left buttock and try and get your right hip bone over your left heel. And then you're dropping the hips down towards that heel as you lift up, find length in the spine, a slight back bend, and then slowly coming forwards, releasing into pigeon, and continue to get that sensation of hips sinking down, breath steady. And then we'll slowly come back up. And once again, transfer the weight onto that butt cheek, bending the back leg and reaching for the foot to pull it in for that quadricep stretch. And then releasing. Swing the leg back round. And just extending the legs out. We'll come back to this posture, but now I just want you to see how slowly you can roll down to the floor, trying to move one vertebra at a time, all the way down. And then we'll just hug the knees into the chest, rock from side to side. And then we'll finish as we began by taking the arms wide and dropping both knees to the right and taking a twist into the spine. This time as you squeeze your right shoulder blade back to the floor, your left shoulder blade back into the floor, just close the eyes and observe any changes in the body. Observe any remaining tightness that you can just ease out. And also observe any differences that you may notice between now and the start of class as you return to this pose. And then pulling the belly in to lift the knees up and over to the other side. Once again, just closing the eyes, allowing that body and breath to settle, observing your body as it takes this posture. And then just slowly make your way to Shavasana. Extending the legs straight onto your mat. Make sure they're wide enough, your feet can flop out. Your hands just slightly away from the body, palms up. Closing the eyes, take a deep breath in. Slowly exhale all the air away. And then just let go of all conscious breathing as you allow the body just to breathe on its own. Slow breaths in, slow breaths out, soft, silent breaths in the body. I'm going to end the recording here, so please stay in Shavasana as long as you can if you're watching this at home.